What's up, folks? Greetings and much peace, love, and light to you and yours. I hope that everybody is doing them in the most bona fide way that they know how, right? In this upload, what I want to talk about is energy, and I want to talk about energy. I want to talk about healing, and I want to talk about the chakra systems, because I received a comment on one of my videos that I posted, and one of the comments was saying, the person said that, excuse me. Oh. So one of the comments we're talking about how it was saying that and one of the comments on the video, the person, they said that they were complimenting my energy, and they were saying you have nice energy, and your energy gives like unbothered, and pretty much was asking or requesting that I gave some wisdom or some discernment on the chakra systems, or the energy, or how my energy seems to be unbothered. And by the way, whoever that was that commented that complimented me on my energy, I really appreciate that, because it's one thing to be complimented on your beauty and people constantly telling you every day of your life that you look like Rihanna. Shout out to Rihanna. I love me some Riri. Shout out to you, Rihanna. She's very talented, very beautiful woman. People that gives back, and people who are do humanitarian things really touch my spirit and my heart, because I have like aspirations and goals as well. So besides people telling you you look like Rihanna every day, and then telling you that you're beautiful, and complimenting my beauty, and then a lot of the obvious things that attractive women get complimented on, for someone to compliment my energy, or for someone to compliment my mindset, or them recognizing my intelligence is a greater compliment than just my beauty, because as I said, I hear compliments. I get compliments all the time about my beauty, and not to be cocky or arrogant or conceited. I'm just speaking my experience. So I really appreciate that. Whoever you are, I forget the name, but whoever you are, I really appreciate your compliment on my energy, because it's really hard and difficult at times, being totally honest, and transparent. It's not that easy to maintain your peace and your calm in every waking day of your life, because we live in such a chaotic, and a world that's full of confusion and chaos, and we live in very unprecedented, tumultuous times. When we're considering the administration, we're considering what these world leaders are doing, and hoping to we hope to give them the benefit of the doubt, and we hope for the best, and even try to expect the best. But at the same time, when you're tapped in and some things, and you follow what's going on, then that a lot of times it is like it's like an inside thing, or it's a conspiracy, and then there's people like me that's really tapped in and have an idea about what's going on and know what's going on, and there's the people that's watching and paying attention to these opposing frequencies of enemies and demons and devils. And then they'll say that people like such as myself, who are intelligent or who are tapped in and know what these opposing frequencies and enemies are doing, they'll say that they're like crazy, you know. So and then considering everything that's going on in the world, things that are going on in the community, when you consider how we interact with just regular people that we come in contact with, or you know, going to and fro from A to B, and people, you know, they're like losing their minds, you know, on the road. And we're human, and anybody can have a bad day, or anybody can, you know, the energy can be changed. But there are people who are by default are operating in a certain type of frequency, right? There are people who, excuse me. So there are people who by their default frequency, they operate in like, they operate in like chaos. Some people, they operate in chaos. They love chaos and they love drama. And you know, if they don't have that, if they don't have it to talk about, if they don't have chaos to feed off of, if they don't have a certain lower level frequency, then they cannot thrive. You know, it's like they can't survive. And it's like an energy vampire. If you know what an energy vampire is, it's like someone who feeds off of higher frequencies, or people of certain frequencies. And if they don't get certain, you know, energy from certain people, or if they can't even feed off of some of that low energy, then they don't feel fulfilled. They don't feel alive. So there are people who actually, they thrive on lower frequencies. They thrive on drama and chaos. They can't operate in stability, calm, and peace. So for my energy to give, you know, as the person said, you know, it's given unbothered. I really appreciate that, because, you know, for one to notice that within me, it's not like where the religious people say, you know, because, you know, thank God because Jesus saved me. You know, if it wasn't by the grace of God or me being saved, you know, as for me, what I would offer and what I would say, you know, I wasn't always at this place, but because, you know, I did certain things and I did the work to change, you know, my perspective and to change my mindset, which also changed my energy. Some of the things that I do, I like to do, I read a lot. I've always read since I was a kid. I used to love to read. I used to like play school with the kids, and I would play school with my siblings, and I would read and things like that. So I used to love to read. Always loved to read, and now I still I make it a point to make sure that I'm reading and that I'm feeding my mind. I love to read. I do prayer meditation, so I'm praying, and then I do meditation, and I also do yoga. So there's different things that I do to ground my energy. Before I get into the chakras and talking more about energy and the world, and you know, how it's so difficult to maintain, you know, this unbothered energy, if you will, or the calm and, you know, the relaxed vibe because of considering the world around us. I will say, it's interesting. I totally drew a blank, but I was going to talk about energy, and then I said I was going to get into the chakras and that type of healing. That's what I was saying. Excuse me, I drew a blank, and it happens from time to time. So I like to read, I like to do yoga, prayer, meditation. Those are things that I feel like people should practice on the daily. You should have a certain type of spiritual practice to help keep you grounded. Breath work is really good, especially if you're starting to feel overwhelmed. Like I said, I wasn't always, just this calm. You know, I will say that without bragging, I just want to share that, there is always that warrior in some people. And I will say that because that's just me being open, honest, and transparent. I'm not the type of person that wants to brag about violence or negativity and things. There's enough of that in the world. There's not enough people that's actually doing the work and trying to maintain their own frequency, because a lot of times we're being dumped on by other people's energy and their projections, whether that be online, whether that be in businesses that we frequent, people that we come in contact with, all of the above. So we experience a lot of outside things, and it just makes it hard for people to, especially people of a higher frequency, to maintain their default, their dominant frequency. And when I say dominant frequency, what is your dominant frequency? Some people are, they're highly energetic. They're really, really energetic. Some people are real cool and mellow and just chill. Some people, their dominant frequency is like they're very quick to anger, but they're always angry. Some people are, in their frequency is very chaotic. Some people are very timid and intimidated and shy in a timid way. Some people are, they have the frequency of like nervousness or scared or highly fearful. So when I say dominant frequency, what is your dominant frequency? Some people, they have a dominant frequency of themselves of pure love. They just like a social butterfly, or just like free, just love. They love everything. They see that everything is the universe. They see that God is in everything. So, really trying to maintain your dominant frequency. And that's where authenticity comes in at, and then, maintaining that energy, right? But I will also add that I don't think that a negative or angry or a toxic dominant frequency is healthy. Some people thrive like that depending on where they are. They might need that type of frequency to survive. But when your environment does not dictate or require that, then I don't see that you should have to maintain a dominant frequency of something that is lower, toxic, or negative. So you should always try to raise your frequency. Again, if you are, a pretty calm, chill person, and you're pretty like, love and light, and you're pretty happy or unbothered, there can be different things that will trigger you, and then some people will purposely try to get you to come out of character or to jump out of your skin. And using breath work as a healing modality, or to maintain your frequency, your calm frequency, maintaining staying grounded, staying calm, cool, and relaxed. But as I said, I wasn't always like that. So, like I said, I'm one of those type of people where there's a warrior, there's a real warrior within. So could I go 0 to 100? Have I gone 0 to 100 real quick? That was me in a past time. But when you do this work and you begin to work on yourself, and then there's a lot of other factors that is to be considered when you're talking about maintaining a certain level of calm, a certain level of peace, a certain level of bliss, a certain level of just, so, there is the chakras, the individual, they mention the chakras. And if you know anything about the chakras, they are our energy centers, and the ancients describe them as like spheres or circular energy balls in our body. Now, people that are spiritual and people who study spirituality and energy work, like Reiki and other energy and healing modalities, they mainly talk about the 7 chakra systems, like the crown chakra all the way down to the root chakra, or the root chakra up to the to the crown chakra. But there's actually like hundreds of chakras. There's little bitty chakras in our body, like we have them on like our fingertips and our palms. Just different chakras, multiple chakras throughout our body, but we focus on the seven chakras. Now, I read this book. It's called Chakra Healing by Margarita Alcantara, and it's a beginner's guide to self-healing techniques to balance the chakras. And in this book, she went over meditation, she went over yoga, she went over crystals, essential oils, food, diet, and behavioral changes. And I smile because I found this book so useful. I really dig it. I read this book almost 2 years ago, so like a year and a half ago, and I found it very useful when you're considering calm and your spirituality and trying to maintain a certain frequency, right? When you're trying to keep your frequency high. Like people say, raise your energy, raise your frequency, and then maintain your frequency. But some people don't know what that means. So what does it mean to raise your frequency? It's literally like we talk, like I said, as far as the chakras go, and your healing your energy centers and maintaining that energy. It's like you're keeping a high vibration. So high vibrations of like peace, love, joy, happiness, gratitude, right? Versus lower vibrations of like fear, anger, lack, and destruction, So when people say raise your frequency, it's to come out of those lower vibrations and to come into a higher vibration and to maintain that. And as I said, that's not always easy, especially considering all of these other frequencies, especially if there's like 6 billion people on the planet, right? Or if there's like, say like 300 people in your direct vicinity, or in the city that you live, there's like a few million people in the city that you reside in. So, or to make it even more to paint the picture a little bit more clearer to where you can feel it, and you're considering other people's energy, you consider the businesses that you frequent, or the place where people go to work a lot, right? You deal with the customers that you may come in contact with, or the people, your associates and your colleagues, right? So raising your vibration and maintaining that vibration of higher vibration, calm, peace, love and joy and happiness and gratitude. So one of the most basic things that a person can do, that I would advise them to do to raise their vibration and to keep their vibration high, is to live in gratitude first and foremost, because sometimes people feel as though they don't have love in their energy. They don't feel a lot of love, and if they don't feel loving and they can't give that, because people can't give what they don't have, at the least bit, you can live in gratitude and be grateful for what you have. Be grateful for the things that you have. Be grateful that you woke up, that you have breath in your body. Be grateful that you have access to food to nourish your body. When you consider that you have access to certain foods versus children or people in other countries that do not have the luxuries, or they don't have they're not fortunate enough to be able to choose a variety of different things to choose from. Even with fast food, I don't eat fast food. It's very seldom. I try not to eat it, but some people, they love to eat fast food, and it's so trash. But just the mind and the freedom to be able to go to somebody's dollar menu and drop them $3 to $5 to go get a burger or some fries or a chicken sandwich or some chicken strips or whatever that somebody choose to eat, just to have the luxury and the freedom to be able to do that, is just a variety in itself alone, compared to what some other people have to choose from. So living in gratitude, being grateful for the people in your life. Some people have nobody, right? There's a lot of people that are walking the streets and they lost their minds. They're not in their right state of mind. Some people don't love them, because if they love them, they really wouldn't be on the streets, and they wouldn't be, in the absolute wrong state of mind or mindless. There's a lot of zombies that's walking around. So there's a lot of things to be grateful for. Living in gratitude, you wake up, you have breath in your body, you rise, you have strength in your body, you have your health, right? These things that we take for granted because we're, sometimes on autopilot, especially if you're like working a job or you're doing a business and you have a very strict routine. You rise, you wake up, and back to business as usual, or you're back to the grind or work as usual. So you have a certain type of routine, and sometimes it could be so monotonous, or sometimes we can be on autopilot in that way where it's just like so mindless, but we're doing it because it's like second nature. And then we forget that we have all of these abilities, that our bodily functions are functioning properly, and that our body is working for us, just for us to be able to have the ability to show up and to be able to perform in our day-to-day lives. There's so many things to be grateful for. Being grateful, again, like I said, for the people that's in your life, because some people don't have anybody. Being grateful for your family, the relationship that you have with your family. Being grateful for the relationship that you have with your associates or your friends. If you have good people that you work with that look out for you, that's a really big thing. If you have camaraderie, right? If you don't have friends, but you have like an emotional support pet, or things like that. I mean, there's so many things to be grateful for. If you can step out of your fort, your home, your residence, and you can go get some sun. If you're anything like me, I'm a child of the sun. So if you can step out and you can get some sun, that is a blessing in itself, because I mean, to be quite honest, none of us can live without the sun. So what's closer to God than that sun up there, So that's something else, raising your frequency. So when I continue to talk about, the chakras and aligning the chakras, one way that you can align your chakras is getting in meditation. So the way that I meditate is I'll breathe, but I usually like to get in a lotus pose where I'm sitting on my butt and I'm crossing my legs, and I'm relaxing my arms. And when I get into meditation, what I try to do is breathing techniques or breath work first and foremost to calm my nervous system. Calming my nervous system, you want to get in gratitude, and then finding something lovely to think about, and then so on, right? When you are doing a chakra meditation, or you're aligning the chakras, a lot of times you can use breath work, and then you can visualize and think of different things that aligns with different chakras. Like, for example, if you start at the root chakra and then you go up to the heart chakra, which is the center of love, where your love is expressed. And if your heart chakra is open, then there's a lot of things that are expressed through love and compassion and empathy, and all of these feel good energies is what is representative of the heart chakra. And if I was doing a chakra balancing, or if I was trying to heal my energy, and I was trying to balance all of my energy centers or chakras, and I got to my heart chakra, I would visualize things that I love. I would sit in meditation with my eyes closed, and I would breathe, and I would visualize and think about things that I love, and things that how I want to embody and express love. Practicing forgiveness, because sometimes it's hard to show love, or people don't feel the love within themselves, or feel capable of expressing love to others, because sometimes we carry resentment or we carry unforgiveness, and it's very normal. It's a part of the human experience. none of us are perfect. And I just want to say, before I continue on talking about energy healing and the chakras, I want to be clear, and I want to insert this. I actually shared this on my Instagram earlier. One of the things that I shared that I want to share in this video is that I said that a real spiritualist, if they will keep it real with you and be open and honest with you, they will tell you, and they will be in agreement that all of this that you see about the whole promoting, oh, peace, love, and light, it's like the whole toxic positivity thing. I'm here to tell you that in our human experience and in our human form, I get it that every, people, we want to share the best parts of ourselves. We want to share the most positive aspects of ourselves and our successes, and we should be happy for one another. But at the same time, the over exposure or projection of positivity, peace, love, and light is like toxic, because people are not being authentic, and it's really not a such thing. A real spiritualist will tell you that it's just no such thing. There is no perfection, because if it was a perfection, then there wouldn't be, good and evil. It would just be good, which is peace, love, and light, and all the positive, high vibrations, all the lovely, joyful, happy, great, feel good vibrations. But that's really not the case. So, practicing forgiveness and shadow work, doing shadow work and healing the unhealed parts of ourselves, trying to, healing our traumas and, confronting the triggers and the things that trigger us and things. Spirituality is not perfect. When you are trying to heal, when you are using, modes like, chakra healing, energies, different modalities such as, energy healing and the chakras and things, excuse me. You really should, give yourself compassion, give yourself grace and compassion in your journey, because again, it's not perfect. The journey is not perfect, and it's not easy, because there's a lot of moving parts, and there's a lot of factors to consider when we're talking about healing, right? Because if I'm being very honest, right, nobody is really done with the work. And again, a spiritualist and anybody that's really doing the work, they know the work is really never done until we have transitioned into the unseen. The work is never really done, right? So having that compassion for yourself, being patient with yourself, and giving yourself grace, because you're not going to get it right every time. Like I said, I wasn't always this calm. I wasn't always this balanced, but I have gotten older, and I've done a lot of research. I've done a lot of work on myself, and yeah, so meditation is a good one to supplement energy healing. Yoga is great too. Some people in the community, especially like religious folks, people that come from like Abrahamic religions or Christianity specifically, they tend to think or tend to make statements like things that come from African traditions or spirituality or the African culture that is demonic. And if people did their research more, and they did things like picked up books and read, whether you get the research on your phone or you read, just taking a deep dive into different stuff, and then you'll find out the truth for yourself. Because when you are under a system that is not of the African system or the African traditions or African spirituality, but it's quite the contrary, and then you're under a system where they want to completely control and to maintain that power and control, of course they're going to tell you the total opposite of what the truth is. Our ancestors and the ancients, the ancient African people, when they did certain spiritual and healing practices, such as whether that was herbals or meditation or things like yoga and things, they did these things as a healing modality. So people, they want to associate African traditions, African spirituality, and even witchcraft with being evil. And first and foremost, what I want to offer, and what I feel as though I need to urge my audience to remember, is that, or even just to know, keep in mind that when our ancestors were doing these things, they were doing these things to empower one or to use as modes of healing. So I just want to say that, because some people say that, yoga is evil. And I actually heard someone say that recently. And, I tried to say in the most calm, humblest of ways to, educate and advise that, our ancestors didn't use yoga as a means to be evil. There's a lot of, negative things and taboos when it comes to African spirituality. And really what it is it's a hypnosis, it's a brainwashing and a program that was given to a lot of our people here in North America by the slave masters or the slave owners, if I'm being honest. So again, yoga is a good one. Yoga is a good practice, is a good thing to practice, stretching the body, breathing, having a deep relationship with your breath is one of the most important and amazing yet undermined healing modalities. Sometimes you can just breathe your way into healing. Sometimes you can just breathe your way into calm. The box breath is a good one. Breathing in for 4 seconds. So you hold the breath for 4 seconds. And releasing for 4 seconds. So some people do that, and they're advised to do that like if they're experiencing anxiety or something. But there's a lot of different box breath techniques or breath work techniques where you are inhaling for however many seconds, and then you're holding the breath, and then you're releasing. That can really help the nervous system so much, and it can really bring you calm. I also want to add, on the topic of breathing and breath work and even meditation, that there was a school in there's a school somewhere in the country, and I forget where, but it's a school of predominantly African American children, and they were sharing online that these African American children were introduced meditation into their curriculum and into their daily activities, and the rate of issues or problems, violence, if you will, it literally plummeted. So they literally had like a lot less instances or reports of children who were having issues at school. So we know that yoga is a proven method for healing. We know that meditation is, and yoga as well. I like crystals. Crystals are definitely used too as a healing modality. Amethyst, there's crystals like amethyst, very, very popular crystal for like healing, calm, and things like that. Black tourmaline, and I want to say onyx or labradorite, I forget, but a lot of the black crystals are good for protection. And then the food and diet, as far as healing the chakras and energy healing and raising your frequency. Now, some people say that, when you eat carcasses, which is like a really strong word, but it's a word that describes, meat or, an animal, right? A dead animal. So some people feel as though if you eat meat, that it's a lower vibrational thing to put in your body because it's dead, and it's, you know, lower vibrational. I was vegan for about 18 months and it didn't work for me, but anybody that is vegan or plant-based and they've been able to eat like that and they've been successful in that, power to you. Keep going. May you stay healthy and well. I don't think that every, you know, lifestyle and way of eating is for everybody, because we all have different bodies, and our bodies and as individuals have certain requirements and special needs because we all are different, right? Especially when you talk about the gut, which is where, you know, a lot of the nutrients are processed, and they say that if, you know, anyone has issues or, you know, ailments and things, that it usually starts in the gut. So, you know, our guts are different, and our DNA and everything. It's just a lot of different things to consider when we're talking about you know, ways of eating, right? But what I will say is that when we're talking about raising your frequency and maintaining a high frequency, obviously just, you know, choosing things that are good for your body, right? And again, nothing's ever perfect, but just really setting the intention to say that I'm going to eat better, I'm going to do better, and I'm going to, you know, consider what I put in my body to maintain my health. So obviously fruits and veggies, it's hard, you know, sometimes, because a lot of times what we're picking and what we're choosing and what we have to choose from is genetically modified, right? It's GMO, it's sprayed with pesticides, and it's you know, it has like replicated seeds, or people are eating like dummy fruits and veggies, and I hate to say it like that, but that's like the best way that I can put it, right? It's like you're getting dummy fruits and veggies and then eating it, and then, you know, or it's just like if you're eating crops or foods and veggies that has pesticides in it. Pesticides are known to cause cancer, to cause major health issues, you know? So it's things like that. So, you know, I don't know if some people know, but there are certain numbers, those stickers on the produce, and more specifically, for example, like fruit. If you get certain fruit and it starts with like a 3, or if it starts with a 4, or starts with a 9, then it tells you, it means different things. Like some of it means that they were sprayed with pesticides, or some mean that it was genetically modified, genetically, you know, manufactured, and then others is organic. And you just have to look up the numbers. Like I believe it's like 4 to 5 digits. And if you look it up, what does the 9 mean on the produce sticker? What does the 4 mean on the produce sticker, or the 3 mean on the produce sticker? So you always want to choose what is the healthiest, because that usually signifies you know, a higher vibration food or veggie. And then, you know, if you're a meat eater such as myself, I don't eat pork. But if you are eating meat, of course you want to eat, if you're eating like fish, you want to get wild caught fish. If you are eating, you know, other meats, excuse me, if you're eating other meats, you want to get grass-fed meats, right? And if you're eating, you know, as far as the eggs, like you want to get cage-free, or even better, free range eggs. So that just means that the bird was raised in, you know, in a pasture where it was able to live free and to run free, right? So the better quality of the food that you eat, the better quality you're putting in your body. The better quality the food that you eat, the higher the quality is, the higher the frequency is essentially what I'm saying. And it is essentially what this book also helps also teaches. So there's just a lot of lifestyle, there's a lot of things as far as your lifestyle and how you choose to live is what dictates how your frequency is going to be. There are people who live in, chaotic places in tough neighborhoods, or, some people live like on Section 8, or they live, impoverished area, low income, and, dangerous, areas and things. And a lot of times they are susceptible to the evil or the negativity or the dysfunction and the chaos that is going on around them. And what you can absolutely do is you can do things like chakra healing and energy work, breath work, yoga and meditation, and just really just focusing on yourself and going within to maintain your frequency while all of the madness is going on. And even for people that live in like suburban areas, or better neighborhoods, and more peaceful environments and things, if you live in North America, you're bound to run into some type of chaos somewhere, especially in the major cities, right? It's happening all over the place, and if people aren't actually seeing it directly in their direct their city limits, then it's online, it's on the news. So always remembering, also keeping in mind, I always talk about this because I wholeheartedly believe in it. Being mindful of the company that you keep. They say birds of a feather flock together, and 9 times out of 10 they do act alike, and they are gonna be one and the same. Maybe in some ways they might be different, but a lot of times people are a reflection of the people that they are around. So people affect our energy, and I'm not the type of person that's going to be around people that is going to affect my energy negatively. If someone is bringing down my energy, it's going to be a no for me, right? So having the courage to take the initiative to be able to weed out who you don't need in your circle. Some people, they don't feel as though they can modify or change the people that are in their inner circle, the people that they interact with. You can keep it to a minimum. If you have problems in your workplace, in the place that you work, you can be very you could be very cordial with people, you could be very respectful, but it doesn't mean that you have to be best friends with people or make friends. If you make friends, then that's just a bonus. But keeping in mind that you're there to do a job, and protecting your energy, protecting your peace. And some people, they say that and they say it so loosely, but really, what does that mean? Like, what does that look like? It means boundaries. Sometimes you have to set boundaries with people, and again, if you can't maintain a circle of people who are high vibrational, who are making you feel good, and who are like-minded, that has like-minded goals, dreams, and aspirations as you, and people that are going to lift you up, then it would be wise and a smart move to separate yourself. And there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes people have issues within their families with people who are low vibrational, or they're just not like-minded. They're not on the same wavelength as, or they don't have the same frequency. You can love somebody from a distance and maintain your peace. People have dysfunctional families, and sometimes they're in these dysfunctional families, and they feel obligated to be in a relationship with them. To be in relationship with them, to be in connection with them, or to deal with their garbage and their BS and what they have going on. People are trauma bonding, and then people are projecting. you know. And when you're trying to maintain your peace, and sometimes maintaining a higher frequency, sometimes you got to step back and learning that being alone is not weird, it's not wrong, it's not crazy, and it's not a punishment, it's not isolation. Some people call it isolation. I even use that word, but I really don't want to use that word because it's really not a good word. Solitude is more like a better word, because when you talk about isolation, you think about like Contagion, the movie Contagion or something, or like somebody that it has like, you know, the CV19 or something, I don't know. So solitude, peace, solitude, you know, and really enjoying your peace. Even if you have a circle of people that you really enjoy and people that you really rock with and that are high vibrational, people really need to learn to be by themselves and learn themselves and learn what your dominant frequency is. What is your dominant frequency? Is that a high frequency? Is that a low frequency? And whatever it is, you might need to tweak that if you want to raise your vibration and you want to live peaceful and joy and happy and gratitude and all of these high feel good vibrations. Now, this is not just I turn it on and then I turn it off. No, it has to be something that has to be practiced and cultivated to where it becomes a way of life. It's just like eating, right? Your eating practices. I don't want somebody to tell me about a diet that they think that, you know, works for myself and everybody else. And then, you know, you say, I'm on this diet. Well, when you're dieting, it's almost bound to fail because it's a diet. You're just, you know, you're practicing it. But when you say that you are devoted to something and it becomes a lifestyle, it becomes second nature, darling. And then you're winning. So don't put any stipulations or limits on anything. You practice and then you make it a lifestyle. That should always be the goal. To practice, to make it a lifestyle. This is a way of living. This is not a phase. This is not something that I'm just practicing and then I turn off, or, you know, I'm this way online and then, you know, when I'm at home I'm like beating my wife, or I'm beating my boyfriend, or, you know, I'm engaging in chaotic things and I'm just living a dysfunctional, chaotic lifestyle. Like, no, you know, really being authentic and really giving yourself grace and compassion, taking everything one day at a time, but really just sitting with yourself, being with yourself, learning who you are, and, you know, cultivating these beautiful feel good feelings, but ways of life. And then you will embody that, and then you will share that with other people. You will share that, right? It becomes a part of you. Because what do they say? They say there's habits, and then there's behaviors, and then there is ways or lifestyles. Your lifestyle, right? So it starts, you know, with small little habits and practice, right? So you're practicing different things. And, you know, of course, like I said, food and diet. The soda is out, you know, trying to keep the alcohol to a minimum, because people who are drinking and they are heavy drinkers, they're drinking heavily, it's just really not a good thing, you know. The root word of alcohol is like alcool or algoon. The etymological roots of alcohol is not, the definition is not good. It says that it is a body eating or a flesh eating spirit. So people are addicted to a flesh eating spirit. People are worshiping a flesh eating spirit, right? And then they don't know why there's so much dysfunction and why they are being controlled and handled by spirits. When you go to certain liquor stores, or LQs as we used to call them, liquor stores, or you go to you know, different place that sells beer, wine, or alcohol, it says beer, wine, and spirits. And when I was younger, I'll be honest, I didn't know what it meant. I was just like, spirits. I thought it was just another word for alcohol, but really it is. And it really is. It's literally telling you beer, wine, and spirits, because when you consume the beer and you consume the wine, you're consuming the spirits of those plants. And then they mix it all together, and then the fermentation and then all of that stuff. It's literally telling you what it is, and then you consume that. And when you get to a certain level of intoxication, that's why in the Bible it says, you know, do not be intoxicated, right? So when you get to a certain level of intoxication, you no longer have control over your consciousness. And then you become intoxicated, and you are now being influenced, controlled, and manipulated by spirits. Now that might be a little bit too deep for some people, but these are the type of things that I'm into. These are the type of things that I like to talk about. You know, in my bio or my about, it says, you know, knowledge and truth seeker. So that's really what I'm really into. You know, seeking the truth, seeking knowledge and things that can really be proven. You know, high levels of intoxication and being inebriated and things. You know, you see people that go out and, you know, they commit vehicular homicides and just do all kind of crazy stuff. They become violent, becoming addicted, just doing things, and then they, you know, they don't remember, or they say they don't know why that they did it. But, you know, saying that they don't remember and things, after getting to a certain level of intoxication, you know, it compromises your auric field, it compromises your energy field. So just remembering to be responsible. You know, they say drink and drink responsibly. We're not just talking about driving, we're talking about your energy, your spirit, for real. Your energy, right? People's energy is being compromised by body eating spirits, or flesh eating spirits, right? Getting intoxicated. And they say that, you know, it feels good, but when you get to a certain level of no self-control, and you can no longer control yourself, that's a problem. That's a problem. So that's just something to think about. Not a judgment, just something to think about. You know, when your auric field and your energy is compromised and you're no longer in control, that's not good for your mind. That's not good for your mental. It's not good for your body, and it's really is not good for your energy when you're trying to raise your vibration, because you'll get to a certain level of bliss, or a feel good, right? When you feel good, but then when a drug, or alcohol more specifically, starts to come down, then what does it feel like? When it starts to wear off, it starts to come down, you no longer feel happy anymore, or feel that, you know, that bliss, or that euphoria, or, you know, those good feels. When you come down, then it's like it feels heavy, or some people, they get like in a really deep depression, you know. So always keeping in mind that you want to be in total self-control of yourself, of your mental faculties, of your energy, and just everything, always. So I think that I covered a lot about my energy, and my different tips for staying grounded, and, you know, energy work, working on the chakra systems, the energy systems and things. There's a lot more to these chakra systems. Every chakra system or energy system is related to different things, different ailments, different fields, and like if you need to heal something, a lot of ailments are related to different chakra systems, you know. So again, if you want to use chakra healing, or, you know, energy work to balance your energy, your chakras, or be like unbothered, of course, as I said, breath work, meditation, yoga, praying, reading, of course, making sure that you make it your intentions to eat high vibrational foods, having high vibrational drinks, sugary drinks, soda, all of that is just not good. Tea is good. I'm a big tea drinker. I have a wide variety of tea. Tea is used, and everyone knows, especially if you're spiritual or you are a spiritualist, they know that teas have been used for eons, especially by the ancients, as a healing modality to heal a host of a number of different things. And if you just want to sip and you just want to, if you just want to sit and you want to sip and you want to look cute, or even if you're a guy, like, even the guys can, you can sip your tea too, right? The fellas can sip too. You can sip some tea. What else did I mention everything? What else did I forget? I forget anything else. Yeah. So, and of course, as always, because a lot of people like to use herbs to clear spaces. Can't forget about the herbs. Palo Santo, sage, your incense, always great. Essential oils, if you can't use smoke, or smoke bothers you, essential oils is always good. What else? There's a lot of different things, but the biggest message that I want to close with as I close this video is just always remembering to pay attention to what your energy is, and being able to move other people's energy off of you when it is projected on you, whether that be online or whether that be in your day-to-day life in the world. So yeah, just being mindful of your energy, right? That's going to help you to stabilize your energy, your frequency, your calm, and like Omarion said, your unbothered energy, right? Very important. So yeah, I hope that this helped not only the person who inquired about different ways of wisdom and discernment on how you can maintain calm and an unbothered energy frequency, but also I hope that this video reached so many different people, because we all need healing, and we all need calm, and we all need peace, if nothing else. If you can't have the highest of the highest of frequencies, if you can just have peace and you're content, then sometimes that right there is just enough. Sometimes it's just the small things, you know what I mean? So, and then the world will be a better place. People need different healing modalities and different, different ways to ground their energy. We say grounding. Like, do people know what grounding is? Sometimes kicking off your shoes and going in a park is just as simple as that. Sitting in the grass and letting the electricity or the eons from the earth, and just breathing in that air and just being in nature. It's something about being in nature. But we're earthlings, for God's sake, right? We're earthlings. So we are a product of the planet. So the planet feeds us. And isn't that just an amazing cycle of life, right? It's just natural. It's a natural thing. And it's simple. And some people say, oh, that's the wee-wee, or it's like, some of the things that people say. But, when you get to a certain level where your peace and your calm is your priority, you will find out that less is more. And it's the most simplest things that matters the most. And that's what I'm going to close out with. That's what I'm going to end this video with. So again, I hope that many people will find value in this video. I wish you guys peace, love, and light and joy, and that you have a wonderful rest of your day. Ashe.